back to Biome Adventure News. Today we are hosting the top 25 tips originally created by Chopper, which I believe are still relevant to this day. So sit down, relax, and enjoy the top 25 tips for Minecraft.
So what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and I hope everybody's having an awesome day. And in this video, guys, we're going to be looking at some things that are going to help you out in your game tremendously. Some of these tips are going to help you with game knowledge. Other ones are going to be little tricks that you probably didn't know about. But overall, this should improve your game significantly and is going to make your survival experience that much better. Tip 25 is saving the bottom trunk of the tree for last. What you can do with this, it's like a little quality of life thing. You save that one for the final break, so you can stand on top of it and break the rest of the tree so that it despawns, and then you get all of the wood, even if it's a little bit high up and out of your range. So you can break that one for the final, and then you end up with exactly the amount of wood that you should get from that tree, but it just saves you a bit of time. Tip 24 is making a shield to use against the pesky skeletons. A lot of new players struggle playing against skeletons just because they can hit you from a range, and it's a little bit hard to take these guys down, especially when there's a lot. But when you have a shield, you're able to hold this thing out in front of you as protection. You can hold it in your other hand if you like, and have the sword in the other hand that's not being used, and you can take these things down with ease. Now, the shield is just a good tool to have in general. I think one of the most useful pieces of equipment you can make for yourself, but it's especially good against skeletons and pretty much all of the other mob enemy types. In my opinion, a shield is just as crucial as having, like, say, a sword or, say, having a pickaxe. They don't take too much to put together. They last quite a long time as well, so they're all around amazing. Tip 23 is going to be sprint jumping. Now, this is a pretty easy one to get a hold of. This is just jumping while you're holding your sprint key. It's the easiest way and fastest way to get around as well. Faster than sprinting. It does take up a lot of your hunger, but it is by far the most efficient way to get around. Now, if you have it as a setting, I recommend you turn it off because it's just easier to manually control aside from it making you auto jump, but it's the best way to get around, and there's nothing really to it. Number 22 is to go ahead and make an anvil. Now, these are great for repairing all of your tools that maybe are low in durability and are close to breaking. All you need is the tool itself, maybe a resource, and then some XP in order to create this. Highly recommend you use this to maintain your valuable tools. This means like a diamond sword, a diamond pickaxe, and even armor. Anything you don't want breaking, an anvil will make sure that happens. Tip number 21 is it's going to be best to fish while it's raining. This will give you the best odds at getting a lot of fish. It's also really good to do this when we talked about opening multiple food sources. Maybe while you have other food cooking, go ahead and start fishing to just gather some more raw materials. It's also a chance that while you're fishing, you can grab things like armor. You might accidentally yoink a pair of leather boots right out of the water, and that happens sometimes, but more often than not, you're going to get some fish that's just going to be extra resources for you. It's best to do it while it's raining once again, so I recommend you take full advantage of the river and sea while that's actually happening. Tip number 20, bringing some seeds and even bone meal into caves is always a good idea, especially if you're going to be doing some extended mining. What I mean by that is like not leaving for a very long period of time to a point where you may run out of food. If you have bone meal, you have some seeds, maybe some mushrooms, you can actually grow some food down in the caves where you have some dirt. And sometimes that may be enough that what it is to keep you alive. Now, I don't think you're going to be using this all of the time, but it's one of those things that, in my opinion, is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. You should ideally go into a cave with enough food, but if that's not the case, then do this. Number 19, a neat little trick with torches you can do. If you're underwater, you're drowning, and you don't have air anytime soon, you can take torches, go up against a wall, and start spamming them. And what this is going to do is create a small air pocket for a short period of time until the torch breaks, allowing you to get some of those bubbles back, maybe giving you back to full air, or at least making a way where you can hit the surface again. Back in the day, one torch used to restore you to full air instantly, but they've kind of nerfed it since then. But if you still spam your torches, you can get almost the same effect, and it should save your life if you need it. Number 18, guys, don't even bother making gold tools whatsoever, especially swords, especially equipment that you're going to be using quite a bit, even in combat. Even though gold is a rare material, it's kind of a cool resource to find, and it's exciting. Gold does not make for good utility. The hit power on gold swords is pretty weak. The durability on every single tool with it is very, very low as well. You're better off making iron for your, your general day-to-day stuff, but use gold for other things like healing items, not tools. Number 17, guys, is going to be placing torches on the ground to help prevent mob spawns better. Now, when you're lighting up a cave, the way mob spawn is just basically from the darkness. And so if you're able to light up the cave enough, that will prevent any mobs from spawning. However, the best way to do this, the most efficient way, is to have them on the ground where it carries the most light. You definitely can put them on the walls, and especially in really dark corners. Do what you got to do, but having them on the ground, lighting up a really nice pathway is the best way to keep your cave safe. Speaking of mobs, number 16 is mobs cannot spawn on half slabs. This is just some useful information to know. They can essentially spawn anywhere except this, so use that information how you like. If you want to kind of maybe line something with safety on half slabs to prevent mobs from spawning, go ahead and do that, and I recommend it. Not something that's super practical, but it's definitely good information just to keep in the back of your mind if you ever need it. Tip number 15, when getting familiar with the different enchantments, there's one in particular you might like, which is called Silk Touch, and this allows you to mine an exact block without breaking it. So for example, you could take a Silk Touch pickaxe and then mine a piece of glass without breaking it down, because otherwise if you just use a regular tool, the glass would shatter. But you can use Silk Touch to actually mine the block itself, and this goes for anything in the game using that Silk Touch enchantment. Also, speaking of enchantments, tip number 14 is I recommend you get another enchantment on your pickaxe called Fortunate before you mine diamonds. What this is going to do whenever you come across some diamond ore is you're going to net more diamonds out of that ore than you otherwise would without Fortunate. It's just a good thing to have in general. Tip 13 is going to know that different foods grant you different saturation levels. So for example, some lighter foods like an apple or a carrot are not going to last as long in your hunger bar as like more heartier food like a golden apple per se, or even like a steak or a pork chop. These things mean that the hunger bar will last longer. It's more of a heavier food essentially. So that's why sometimes you might eat like a lot of bread, but you realize your hunger bar goes down pretty quickly and you're wondering why. Rather you eat a steak and it lasts significantly longer. That's the reason. Tip number 12, if you're going to be growing sugarcane, which I recommend you do because it's a great resource, is to grow on sand. People claim that this is the best way and the fastest way to grow sugarcane, and the reason you want the resource is because sugar is not only an important ingredient in making cakes, but it's also really good for trading with villagers, as oftentimes that's what they want. Having a block of sand in contact with water, maybe near your house or by your farms, is probably the easiest way to go about it. Number 11 is keeping your hotbar organized. This is important, and there's no really right way to do it. You do whatever feels comfortable to you, but for me, I like to keep my sword in my first slot, either my pickaxe or my bow in my second, and then my shield in my third, torch in my fourth, water bucket in my fifth, and then my food in my sixth, and just whatever miscellaneous stuff you might have. But you can organize it however you like and whatever you're comfortable with, but make sure that you can get to anything you need in a moment's notice. Number 10, if you're struggling with Endermen, a really good thing to do is just put that water bucket in front of you. Endermen normally calm down if they're submerged in water, but if one is just being pesky and you're having trouble fighting them off, instead of getting close enough to use your sword and then you kind of put yourself in danger, just simply putting a water bucket down over and over again will cause them to go away and then take damage over time. They really don't like water, so if you surround yourself with water, you make it a lot harder for them to get actually up to you. Probably the best defense you can have against these guys, if I'm being honest. Number 9 is timing your swings when sword fighting, because that is absolutely crucial for doing the most amount of damage. Now, if you just spam your sword, you can still hit people, but the hits are going to be a lot weaker than they otherwise would if you let your swipe kind of recharge. What you want to do to deal maximum damage is let your swing reset, and the moment it resets, you swing again. So you can get the most amount of hard hits in, but with also the least amount of time in between those hard hits. Tip number 8, you can set up a spawn trap in the nether with really any sort of enemy type in the castle by blocking it off with stone and then just fighting them from there, keeping them behind, keeping a spawn portal on the other side. You'll have infinite enemies and you can kill them at your leisure without really being in any danger. Infinite XP, and it's an amazing way if you just want to upgrade armor, make potions, that kind of thing. I really recommend you set up at least one of these. Number 7, upon defeating a raid, you'll be granted with the effect called Hero of the Village, and what this allows you to do is reduce the cost of the first trade with any villager by 30%, and it's something that's really going to be extremely useful. If you're trading something valuable, maybe in order to get diamonds, it's great for that. If you beat a raid, take advantage of this effect as much as you possibly can. Tip number 6 is keeping your ender eyes or anything extremely valuable in an ender chest. You can hide it somewhere in the world where it's basically no chance of being destroyed. Put the other side in maybe like your safe house, and the thing is, between these two chests there's a connection, so you can pull any items that are in that ender chest from either side, and this is the best way to keep ender eyes just in case one chest gets destroyed. You don't lose all of that progress. You won't have these right off the bat, but definitely invest in some ender chests when you can. Tip number 5, make sure you use your crouch walk when you're crawling through tight spaces, or if maybe you're high up on an elevation with a chasm underneath you. When you're crouch walking, you have zero chance when you're holding that crouch to fall off that side. Even if you kind of back up into it, you let go of that crouch, if you're still in that position, you won't fall. If you move any more farther than that without crouching, then you will fall down that chasm, but this is the best way to be safe and really not fall off any places that you shouldn't. Number 4, if you're going to be traveling by boat, make sure when when you leave it, you go ahead and hit it a couple times to break it and take it with you. I see a lot of people just leaving their boat where it is and then maybe kind of forgetting about it, but if you break it and then you pick it back up, you can place it anywhere you like as well. Tip number 3, putting 2 chests back to back. You can make a double chest, and they're unbelievably useful this way. You have so much room in them, pretty much in excess of more than you'll ever need. You could have an entire storage area if you want of just complete double chests. They're really easy to pull from, and they look stylish as well, so there's no reason to not have it. Tip number 2, if you do end up defeating the Ender Dragon and you get the dragon egg, then hold on to it and keep it somewhere safe, because there's literally only 1 per game, and they're so rare you can't even spawn them in creative mode if you would like to. The dragon egg, if you manage to get it, is the most rare item in the game, so hold it tight and keep it somewhere where you're not going to lose it. Now finally guys, coming in today at the number 1 spot, if you've made it this far in the video, then let me know in the comment section just by leaving a smiley face. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching if you made it to the end. But the number 1 survival tip I can give you guys that is really going to help you out practically is to make yourself a compass and a map. These, I think, are by far the most important tools you can do for yourself, especially if you're new to Minecraft, you're a little bit of a beginner, and you just want some extra tips for surviving in this game. What a map is going to do is basically mark out exactly where you are, maybe where your house is, and the general vicinity of the area surrounding you. Now, the compass, if you get too far to the range of your map, will give you the general direction of which you need to head in order to get back home. These 2 tools in combination, even if you want a clock, which can be helpful, it's more or less just decoration, but these 2 tools in conjunction will make it so that you never ever get lost in this game. And so they're unbelievably helpful, and I cannot recommend them strongly enough. But guys, that is going to be 50 Minecraft survival tips in 2019. I really hope this did help. If it did, make sure to leave a like. As I said, we're going to go for 5,000 likes on this video, and I'd appreciate that so much. And if you want more Minecraft videos like this, make sure to go ahead and subscribe and stick around, as there's going to be much more on the channel. Let me know in the comment section which survival tip helped you out the most, and if there's any Minecraft survival tip that you think I should have included in this video and I didn't, let me know what that is down below in the comment section as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and stick around, and I'll see you guys in the next stream or the next video. Take it easy, and peace out.